Were we surprised it was a girl? Yes and no. Every time that I think it's something, I'm almost always wrong. And originally I was thinking it was going to be a boy, primarily because I didn't have a whole lot of weight gain and I felt really good, and girls usually make me feel a lot worse than boys. And then the second half of the pregnancy, I started retaining a lot of water and started gaining more weight, and that is more like a girl. So I won't say that I was like fully surprised that we had a girl, but on the other hand, I was hoping that it was going to be a boy this time to help even out the numbers a little bit. And I was thinking, you know, boys tend to be bigger, so maybe this is just a boy. But whatever the case, Art and I are totally thrilled with Lillian, and you know, a boy or girl, we were very happy with whatever we got. Did I need stitches? No, I did not, and I attribute that all to the skillfulness of my midwife, with her giving my perineum support as I was pushing out this very large baby with an arm where it wasn't supposed to be. And I couldn't be more thankful, because that would have made the recovery a lot harder. Newborn clothes do fit her, but they're getting snug. Now, as of today, she is 8 days old, and she's still not quite up to her birth weight. Yesterday we had her weighed, and she was 9 pounds 1 ounce. So she's just a little shy of her birth weight. And like I said, the newborn clothes fit. They're just a little snug on her. I'm guessing within a week or so she'll be in just straight 0 to 3 months. One of you guys asked me what is my birth history and how have I had all of my children at home, or have they been a mix of hospital. So Charity, my first one, I had an extreme fear of hospitals, needles, and all that, so I chose to have a home birth for my first one. When I was expecting John, my midwife that I had Charity with was no longer practicing, and there were no other local home birth midwives, so I was pretty much forced into one of our local hospitals, and I found a midwife practice that delivered at the hospital. So I used a midwife for John, Peter, and Lydia, and all three of them were born in hospitals. Now, by the time I had Lydia and I was pregnant with Mary, New York State had changed a little bit on their regulations of home birth midwives, and several home birth midwives had moved into the area. So when Mary came along, we decided we wanted to jump ship and go back to having a home birth. Now, part of that was due to the fact that Lydia, her labor was actually very, very similar to Lillian's, and I woke up around midnight, and she was born at 3:32 in the morning. So the labor was less than, it was like three and a half hours from start to finish. Like first contraction, I woke up to her being born, and in fact we almost delivered her in the car. The midwives and the hospital staff actually physically dragged me out of our car onto a gurney because they didn't want to deliver in the car. And it was a very traumatic experience for me, having all that trauma so early. You know, I never expected the labor and delivery to be so quick, and then to have just everyone, the hospital staff so upset by just me being in labor. It was very traumatic, and I had a lot of problems with postpartum anxiety, depression, and that because of her birth. So there was a very good reason to move to a home birth after having that quick of a labor. We just felt that home birth was a better option for us than going to the hospital. So Mary, Grace, and Lillian have all been born home since. And I have to say that I feel like my mental health has been better because of that, because the midwives come here, they take care of me, they take care of our family, and I just feel like our care is better, and it's something that works for us. Lillian's labor lasted, they considered it under 3 hours because I really couldn't tell what were real contractions and what weren't. Everything sort of started around 8:30 in the morning, but I never pegged it as full-blown labor until probably 9:30, 10 o'clock. And she was born at 12:19, so they consider that precipitous labor, which is under 3 hours. That's pretty speedy, and that's why I always tell Art when I get towards the end of a pregnancy, don't ever go very far, because if I go into labor, you know, it could move very quickly, and indeed this labor did move very quickly. Do I get in a peaceful place when I'm in labor? No, I would say I'm in just my normal mindset. I'm just, you know, when I start feeling a contraction, I usually have to focus just to get through it. But I like to hear what's going on, and so I like everybody talking. I like to know, my midwife knows that I like medical stuff, so I like hearing case studies or different things she's experienced in different hospitals, different births. I thrive on that, and that provides the distraction that I need to be able to get through each contraction. I know that's very odd, because she said most women like to be like totally silent and just get through the contractions, and I'm like total opposite. I like the chatter, and if it gets too quiet during a contraction, I'm like, okay, tell me something, you know, and that's how I labor. It's kind of different, but that's what works for me. How long was Lillian not crying for? Within no longer than 2 minutes, she was breathing on her own. I would say it was probably closer to 1 minute. In fact, right in the beginning, I think I may have explained this earlier, we didn't want to necessarily get her breathing right away, because we wanted to suction out her lungs in case she had a lot of amniotic fluid in there. And so, you know, the big thing, we got her suction, and then we used the ambu bag to help her breathe a few times. We only need to use it, I would say 4, 5 breaths, and she came up just like that. And after that, there was no issues. It was just kind of getting her to get past that stunned phase. She was just stunned by how fast everything happened. I asked my midwife if her hand being where it was could have contributed to the prodromal labor, and if that's why she went overdue. And we do think that really could have played a part into it, because it's hard for the head of the baby to really engage and push on the cervix, because you really need the head to push on the cervix to really start triggering labor. And so if her hand was here, that was more difficult for her to get engaged. And I'm thinking, I mean, obviously we won't know for sure, but I'm thinking all of that vomiting made me put pressure on her, which made her have to become engaged, which put the pressure on the cervix, which caused the labor to start. So if I hadn't had the throwing up bug, I'm not sure that I would still have Lillian right now. I think I might still be pregnant, and definitely think the hand had something to do with that. In fact, when I was pregnant, towards the second half, I always kept saying to Art that I felt little fingers down by my pubic bone. And when you go to the Spinning Babies website, they say that when you feel fingers down there, that's a sign of a posterior baby, meaning the baby's back is to my back, not a good birthing position. And I kept on feeling for the baby's back, going, okay, back is in the front. And Lillian always had her back to the front of my stomach. That's why I always look so big out front. But what I must have been feeling was that little hand down by her face causing all those problems, and there's nothing you can do to change that. That is her, that's the way she liked to lay in my stomach. And in fact, even now that she's born, she does the same thing. She still likes her hands up by her face. So, you know, that's just how she was comfortable. I just made it for a more difficult time for mom pushing her out. How is the room moving going? We are not doing anything with that quite yet. Right now, Lillian sleeps in our room, and I usually keep my babies with us in her room, in her bed, for a good 4 or 6 months. So we're not in a huge hurry to redo the boys' room, but we do need to get a move on that, and that is going to entail some pretty intense remodeling. We're going to have to be gutting that room. That used to be an office for the previous owner who was here, and it had a lot of use and abuse before we moved here, and it really needs to be gutted and completely redone. So that's a pretty big task, one that we're going to have to gear up for. We're just not, I mean, she's a week old, we're not there yet. So everybody's just staying put where they are for the time being until we can get that process going, and then once that room is finished, we can move the girls into that room. I asked Charity if she wanted to be at this birth, and she was kind of not really into it. So I was willing to have her there. In fact, if any of the kids wanted to be there, they were more than welcome to being there. But most of them just didn't have any interest. They just like to come in after the baby's been born. And so I don't know if Charity would want to be there for other births. She's certainly welcome to. It's just this time she wasn't really. So after I finished my video, I realized that half of the film that I did, I ran out of the memory card ran out on the camera, and I didn't finish answering all of your questions. So I'm going to finish answering them right now. Somebody asked if I ever slow down. Yes, I do slow down. In fact, right now I'm running on slow speed. This is not high speed for me at all, and it's very hard for me to slow down, but I know that it's really important for me to not do a whole lot right now and to let my body heal after having a baby, especially a larger baby. It's much better for my family if I can recover quicker by behaving myself than not behaving myself and making the recovery that much longer. Has there been any jealousy between any of the kids? And yes, we've had, I wouldn't say it was jealousy, but I think there was some attention issues, and that came out of Lydia. Overall, she just really wasn't happy about the baby being here, and we've worked through that over the last 2 weeks, and I think things have improved. I would have thought that Grace would have been my problem girl, but she has fully embraced her new baby sister, and both her and Mary absolutely love seeing their baby sister first thing in the morning, and it really is very sweet. Someone else asked, what would have happened if my midwife had not gotten here in time and Art had to deliver the baby? We actually specifically asked Michelle that question, and she said more than likely everything would have gone fine because her heart rate was, Lillian's heart rate was so high and she was fine. The whole delivery process really wasn't that awful for a normal delivery process, that we probably would have seen that she was kind of gray and limp, and we probably would have rather vigorously rubbed her back. We would have been on the phone with her because she would have been walking Art through the steps of delivering the baby, and that she would have probably been fine. As for the amniotic fluid in her lungs, she may have expelled it, or it may have caused a type of tachycardia in an infant, which may or may not have resolved on its own and may or may not have required a transport into the hospital. Again, those are all what ifs. We weren't there, but looking back at the scenario, that's what we were looking at. She probably would have been fine if my midwife hadn't made it in time, but we didn't have to cross that bridge. And the last question that you guys asked was how much did we pay for our home birth? And my insurance covers part of the home birth, and my midwife allows us to pay as we feel that we can throughout the pregnancy. So she charges a flat fee of $1,500. And she has told us before that if that was a problem, to let her know. She wants to make sure that women get the birth that they want, and if money is an issue, she wants to be aware of that so she can make appropriate adjustments. Now, she is also very much into taking alternative forms of payment, and I know that she has some clients who have brought her part of animals as part of the payment, and she's perfectly fine with that. So we were able to, if you watch some of our videos, we were just able to pay her with cash over 2 visits and pay for that, and the insurance covered the rest of that. And when you look at how much it costs in the long run, home births are far cheaper than any hospital birth, and the care you receive is so much better. So I think that answers all of the questions that you guys had sent to me. Thank you so much for asking those questions. I hope this gives a little bit more insight into the whole home birth experience. If you haven't seen the video of my home birth or my reflections on the birth, you can find those videos in the description below. And make sure that you check out our channel and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you for our next video. Bye!